After a few trips back and forth, one of the things that I forgot to mention was that it has these guys right here. There's one here, 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 there's one back here, and there's another one over here. And these are what they use to attach in their little subwoofer and foam inserts. And for us, they're gonna make a great place for us to screw it down and also lock it into place just like it does for the factory. To do that, put the piece of plastic in here and push down on it, and then it'll indent that into the bottom of the plastic. Once you have that, then you can drill the corresponding hole. Line them up, and then it drops into place. The floor, as I found, is not level. There's a dip here in the center because it's kind of U-shaped. So there's a dip here, there's a bigger dip here, and then in the back corners there's also another dip, which I'll show you the bottom of this. We had to build risers so that we could get a nice, solid, flat piece. This is going to be my back piece. I'm thinking my distribution block will go somewhere along here. And then I've already added in a second piece here. For one, it adds rigidity to this, so it's coming up, the screws are coming up from the bottom and into the amp rack here. But the main purpose for this was getting the amplifier up off the floor an extra ½ of inch. We want some elevation to it, and obviously now I have a full inch of material underneath the amplifier. This amplifier is going to go here. It'll leave just enough room for me to get my screw in this area and this area. Power wire is going to come out of here. The signal is going to come over here to the DSP, which brings us to the DSP. The DSP I'm pushing all the way up against the edge of this plastic. I'm not wasting 1 inch of room anywhere in here to do that. The signal will come out this way and up into the car along with all the speaker wires. The only RCA that's going to be running up will be the C1, the sub amp. Next, this amplifier needs to float on top here. Take some measurements of how long I need this to be. With the way this is set up, I have the ability to put a leg on either corner, not on all four. And I've lifted it off of this amplifier a ½ inch so that it's not sitting directly on top of that. And I've made this leg here that's going to go over by the DSP and add another screw down point for this corner. This will sit something like this. I removed the center of this out so that I can get to the connections on this amplifier if I need to, with just removing this one amplifier. And now this will sit on here like that. And that gives us our general mock-up for how we want to put these amplifiers in here. One 4-channel, the other 4-channel, the DSP will be hiding up underneath. The only thing we need to come out of that is the USB. My power wire will run all across the back. My signal and RCAs and everything will run this way through the system and up the side into this area. And the C1 will get mounted in this location. I do also have 2 passive crossovers that I'm going to hide right here. Those are for the rear door. Now I wish I could say it's going to be as easy as that, but if you recall, the input wires are located on the bottom, so I have to put all my wires into the amplifier and snake those out before I screw the amplifiers down. So there's a lot that needs to be done in order to get these amplifiers put into this place here. I also kind of need to put the car back together and make sure that it'll go back together where these are at. So that, you know, I don't want to have to figure that out when I'm done. If that all works good, then we'll move on to mounting the C1 in this location. With all the pieces screwed together in its final assembly, I still have to take it back apart, but this is with everything screwed into place and carried it over from the vents to drop into place. Was able to put the back panel back in to make sure that once it all goes back together, everything will just snap back in place the way it's supposed to. That means this part of the job is complete and we can move onto that. For mounting the C1, we were able to repurpose the factory amplifier mount and adding our bracket onto it and doing some very precision cuts and tucking and fitting, and it took a couple times to get exactly where this needed to be, but we were able to get this securely mounted behind that side panel with it fitting and able to breathe and move around. The nice thing is here on this end is all our gain controls, which we'll be able to get through that pocket like I had mentioned earlier, which is really cool. We are going to be running this in the mono input, so we've selected that switch, and we're going to be running it at 1 ohm, so we've selected the 1 ohm switch here. I don't need to attach any wiring to this to get it into the car. The wiring will already be in the car once we get the bigger amp rack into place. The screws for the amplifiers are located on the bottom. That means we have to get this pre-wired before we can screw it onto the amp rack. I've already made up the wiring that I'm going to use, and I have to kind of keep in mind, like, because you know, it has a natural bend to it, so I want to make sure it's going the natural way. This amplifier is going to sit like this in the car, which means I want this wire to go bending like this, and the same with the... I also need to make sure that I have my 5-star logo facing the right direction. Once I've done that, tighten it down into place. I've also made up my remote turn on. That takes care of the power side. Now I have the speaker side over here to deal with. This amplifier is going to power my 2 mid-bass in the front doors as well as my component set in the rear. I've made up my wires for that. I'm going to go with my standard purple and green for the rear, and then for the front mid-bass I'm going to use white and gray. It's listed as channel A, B, C, D. A is going to be white, and it goes positive, negative. That'll be followed up by gray, then green, and then purple. The RCAs I can plug in later once I get it mounted into place. The other thing I need to make sure is that this channel A, B, C, D switch, they're both on stereo. And they are. In the install rack, the power is located right here, which means I'm going to be screwing in these terminals and whatnot. I want to protect this part of the amplifier. To do that, I'm going to use several layers of blue tape. And then, because I am a little bit paranoid, I'm going to take some duct tape, which is way thicker, and stick that on as well. I don't want to stick the duct tape directly to the amplifier for obvious reasons. Duct tape is disgusting and gets gooey stuff everywhere, so the blue tape will keep that from happening. That'll work for right now. I may need to peel some of this back off once I get this on there. I'll readdress it at that time, not too concerned with it, but for right now, this is good enough. I can move this onto the amplifier rack. We can get it screwed down and we can start drilling our wire tie down for the power wire here, and also figuring out what we need to do for the next amplifier. On the T-Spec power distribution, it goes power, ground, remote, power, ground, remote, all the way down through all 4, and you have your inputs for your fuses. First wire I need to get into place, my ground. What makes these T-Spec blocks unique is that they use a Torx instead of the standard Allen. The plan is to tighten these wires up, get them screwed down. There is going to be an inch of plastic I have to go through, so I'll be using the 8-inch zip ties to hold them in place. And then the remote turn on is going to sit on top of them like this. I like the contrasting colors where you get red, blue, black. I think that looks cool. For lining up all the wiring, I'll be using the wire ruler that you can pick up at Mobile Solutions. I'll be using the 8-inch, so I need a 5/32 drill bit. This is the other reason why I put the tape on here, so that the drill doesn't accidentally bump this.